Hello and welcome. This is the Bits vs. Bytes podcast. I am your host, Ama Grigic, and today I have a very special guest from Valtech. His name is Arnoud Martens, and he's a managing director for the Netherlands. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So I would like to start off with something about you. So could you tell me a little bit about your background and also how you got to work at Valtech?
Yeah, sure. My background is I studied electrical engineering in Delft. Got a degree there. And during my study, I sort of found out that programming computers was something I was both proficient at and I liked. So that's where I also started when I graduated. I first worked at IBM, and then later I transferred to Netscape, and that was my first job in internet. And ever since, and that was, I think, 97, ever since I've worked with digital internet. First as a programmer, later consultant, done some DevOps things, and then also at some point started managing as sort of a by thing. And what I always say, it's gotten a little bit out of hand.
It's like my podcast.
So it's grown bigger and bigger, and the teams have grown bigger. And at some point, I managed the development department of one of the bigger digital agencies in the Netherlands. And then I think it was in 2011, I got called by my current employer, which was then at the time eFocus. They were looking for a managing director for the Netherlands. And that's how I transferred to what then was eFocus and later became Valtech. Okay. So that's my background, technical and also managerial leadership.
I didn't know that, actually. We know each other from the past, but I didn't know you had a technical background.
Yeah, no, I've actually been a programmer. So that's also what sometimes some of my colleagues ask. Did you also have like a T-shirt with all these things on there?
There's no place like 127.
Yeah, exactly. I actually had. There's no place like localhost. Yeah, I actually won. Cool. I can actually type in IP address and know what they mean and what subnets are and program my own routers at home. And I'm still actually playing also with like Raspberry Pis and those kind of things. I'm actually sort of as a hobby do these kinds of things, which also helps in my current job still.
Yeah, because a lot of managing directors, or maybe if you look at it, it's called mainly called COO, right? A lot of them don't have that experience, right?
No, they come more from a business background or economical background, but I'm actually a technical background. And like I said, the sort of leadership part sort of grown up on me, being successful. And that's also what I like in my day-to-day job, because I'm still working a lot with technical implementation. I'm not doing it myself, but I still also relate with our clients to...
because I was wondering about that. Does that also help in some kind of discussions or maybe talks you have with clients as well to get that feeling of, okay, this guy does also know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I mean, you know, so to some extent what you're actually talking about, and you can also make sense on some of the discussions that are happening, what is sense, what doesn't make sense. Yeah. And it also helps with the employees. I mean, sometimes people come up and say, like, this is not possible, and then I'm saying, like, but I think you could try it this way, and then you see them looking, oh, yeah, you might actually be right.
So that's actually an option.
Yeah, it is actually an option. And sometimes you know that people say like this is not possible, and then I'm coming some sort of at least suggestions, and then they go off. So it does help, and it's also sort of the energy you bring into the conversations. Being passionate about what you're actually doing.
Yeah, and if you look at what Valtech does, maybe it's good to explain a little bit about that. So what do you kind of try to provide for your clients?
We call ourselves a digital agency, which means that everything we do is around digital. So that's internet and all sorts of connected things. We're an agency, which means we provide services to clients in the sense that we don't have our own products, we don't have our own websites. We work for our clients, like for instance, Heineken is one of our biggest clients in the Netherlands, well known, and Heineken.nl is the website we made. Okay. So we make that for Heineken, and then we do both the sort of marketing stuff, which is the strategic kind, where we envision who is this actually for, what you're trying to do. We design it, so we make something which is compelling for the end user to use. We actually develop it in the technical sense. We put it on platforms, and we also maintain the website to make sure that it reaches the audience or reaches the goals that our client has for that. So we're a company with a lot of different services, which also makes that we have a lot of different type of employees. Yeah. So we have strategists, we have marketing people, we have creative people, we have technology people, developers. So it's kind of like a mix.
Yeah, and you mentioned Heineken, which is a big brand all over the world, I think. Yeah. Is that also the kind of the type of clients you actually look for? So these kind of clients that have that kind of big brand identity.
Yeah, it's about big brands. But it's not so much about the brands. It's actually what they need to do using digital. And then when you look at Heineken, I mean, you buy beer, which is not digital. But then Heineken has like a lot of supply chain where they supply beer around the world, and that happens in different ways. And that's also what we do. We provide like the e-commerce solutions where basically pub owners order their beer with Heineken directly. So we build those e-commerce portals and facilitate those. So those are the kind of brands that we actually work for.
Yeah, so that's also kind of, if you say it like that, that's also not just the client-facing part, right? So the clients of the clients.
So the consumers. Yeah. So it is sometimes it's targeted at consumers.
Yeah, sure.
But sometimes it's also in like
internal,
what we call internal B2B, so business to business type of portals.
Okay.
Where
that's different than what I was thinking about, because I knew that you do a lot of websites for consumers, of course, but also doing the kind of back. It's not actually a back-end system, but it's kind of like that, right? So it's an internal system.
And it goes a lot further because we will probably also be talking about touch points, and there will be multiple touch points. Like for one of our bigger clients worldwide is Audi. Mm-hmm. And Audi has like this MME, which is like their internal in-the-car system where all these sort of interfaces, navigation, but that is also connected with SIM cards now to the internet directly. Sure. And we actually build those systems.
Oh, crazy.
So we have like 400 people working day in, day out at Audi, working with Audi on developing services on that platform.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Maybe it's good to talk about that a little later on.
Yeah.
What I was wondering about is something that happened a few years ago. So a few years ago, eFocus was kind of, I think, bought. I think
it was bought.
Yeah, it was bought by Valtech, which is actually the current label and the current company as well. So how did that deal come about? So how did that come about?
Yeah, okay. Maybe it's good to tell the story because I joined in 2012.
Sure, yeah.
And in 2012, we were one of the bigger agencies in the Netherlands already with like 100 people employed. We were sort of in the top 10 in the Netherlands. And when I joined, we quickly sort of formulated a vision to be in the top in the Netherlands. So being in the top 3. So that required us to grow quite significantly. So in 4 years' time, we doubled our company, attracting some new brands, attracting a lot of people, getting the growth going. And sort of after 3-4 years, we noticed that a lot of our clients, I've mentioned some brands already, Heineken, DSM, those are like companies we were working for, like proud Dutch brands, which have been around for like 100 years, but which are also internationally present. And we noticed that those brands were asking us more and more questions to go international. And they were also questioning our ability. I mean, we can buy flying tickets and go abroad.
Yeah, sure.
But they actually would want us to be in those locations present as well, to roll out the things we've been building in the Netherlands, to roll them out in different countries. So we noticed like there was a sort of a necessity to go international. And so that's also why we, with the owners of the company, sat down and said, like, how are we going to do this? And then we sort of envisioned there's a couple of ways to achieve that international presence. We can open offices, which takes a lot of time or which just require money. We can also buy other agencies, which some of our competitors have done. But we can also sort of be on the path to be taken over and be joining a larger network. And we quickly came to the conclusion that was our sort of preferred route. To be bought and to immediately become part of a bigger network. So that's also why we actively went out and looking for potential sort of larger networks to take us over. And by coincidence, we met Valtech at a common client, and that immediately felt like a sort of a match, both culture, but also the way we look at our business, the way we do our business, and that's also how we got into talks with them. And they were open to expand their business by buying companies. And Valtech at the time had no business in the Netherlands. So we were sort of the potential to build Valtech Netherlands. And we quickly, like literally in 2-3 months, the whole deal was done. And
so that's very quick for a company your size at the time. Yeah,
because at that time we were like 200 people. So quite a sizable agency, and we were also the largest acquisition that Valtech has done. Valtech has done many acquisitions, but this was by far the largest they have done as well.
Yeah, because they're originally a French company, if I'm not mistaken.
They're a French company. They're pretty old, actually, in the digital space. They're 93. founded.
Okay,
So
sure.
we've actually celebrated our 25th anniversary this year.
Yeah,
so we were only part 2 years of that, but we could celebrate the 25th anniversary for...
that's early, though.
It is early, and they were sort of in the CDI, and they were doing a lot of agile consultancy. There's a lot of things, and they quickly went to the stock market at that time in the Euronext in Paris, because it's a French-based company. That's where they founded. And based on the funds that they got from the stock market, they quickly acquired a number of agencies in other countries, so they expanded pretty quickly. And then, obviously, in 2001, the whole market collapsed.
Yep.
And that's also when basically Valtech became a penny stock. So it was like a proper company. It was floating, but it was not good enough to really progress, but it was also not bad enough to fall over. And in 2010, the current management basically took over by providing a public offer on all the stocks, got 70-80% of all the stocks. And based on that, they replaced the management, sat down on the management stools themselves, and started building the company that it is now is.
Yeah, and what I was wondering about is that what usually happens, or what you see happen often, is that when this kind of when a company is bought by a bigger company or whatever, you see that the kind of company culture changes as well. Did that happen with you guys as well, or was it less because you already saw that kind of company culture was overlapping? How was that?
Yeah. I mean, there's some remarks to be made. There was no Valtech Netherlands, so there was no integration happening. So we were basically floating along. It was also Valtech basically left us alone, in the sense that they didn't send a lot of people in and you need to do this different. They sort of didn't touch it. Not to say that we didn't do anything. And also ourselves, we quickly replaced the name eFocus Valtech, which was I think a lucky decision in the end, not to extend two brand names in the market. And things definitely have gone. Some things have changed. It's become more international. We've also changed the language. Like before, I was doing presentations in the Netherlands when I was standing in front of all the people. Right now, I'm doing presentations in English.
Yeah.
So things have changed, but that has been more a gradual process. And also, what you already said, the culture was kind of like the same.
Yeah.
I mean, that's already when we started speaking before the deal with senior management. We felt like, okay, these people are basically looking at the way, it's also how they treat people, how they look at employees, how they want to...
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, so there was kind of like a match. And also, we work with quite a number of software packages which we implement. And we have 4 major packages which we implement in the Netherlands. And Valtech has chosen exactly the same 4.
That helps as well.
So there was kind of like a lot of similarities.
Oh, okay.
And also what we quickly found out during the deal process, we already sort of noticed that, okay, we shouldn't be ashamed of what we bring to the table.
Sure, yeah.
We're a pretty sizable company. We know our stuff. But it's turned out after the deal that we actually sort of one of the leading countries within Valtech pretty quickly. So some of the people that are within Valtech Netherlands have already taken up global roles as well. Yeah, leading Valtech into the next phase for...
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit before we started recording. For example, Auke van Urk, which is now the global CTO of Valtech.
He was the CTO in Valtech Netherlands. He's also one of the founders of the company. And he was quickly, literally after a couple of months, he was picked out and asked, okay, you want to do this on a global level. So he's now our global CTO, working in all the countries, working with clients and defining our technology strategy.
Cool, yeah. And the interesting part here is what I wanted to ask you about as well is that I talked to Heini from Mirbeau and also Paul from Dept. They have 2 different kind of ways of looking at expansion and what they wanted to do. Yeah. For example, Mirbeau was also bought, but on the other hand, Dept is kind of turning into the kind of company that wants to buy all those companies.
They've actually trying to become a Valtech. And actually succeeding quite well in that as well.
And why was this path logical to you guys? So you could have done that as well, right?
Yeah, we could have. And actually, there were also options on the table. We also talked with the investors, and there were kind of a couple of investors quite keen to invest in us as well. But it's also to do with the founders and the owners of the company who are day-to-day working in the company. It's also your personal interest. Yeah. We much more rather focus on working with our customers rather than looking for companies, buying those companies. So it's also personal interest.
Yeah.
And we sort of felt like becoming part of a large network is the fastest way to have having this international and to actually grow our business also in the Netherlands.
Yeah, because what you said, if the kind of deal was made within a few months, then you're not going to build a network within a few months, right?
You're not going to, but then again, I mean, I have full respect for some of the other choices. I mean,
Sure.
if that's what you feel for, and that's how big companies are built, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's entrepreneurship, and but we chose to become part of a bigger network. But then still, it's maybe good to note when we were joined, we were 200 people. Now we're 2 years ahead. We're 300 people.
Yeah.
So the amount of sort of acceleration that has happened since we became Valtech, was definitely what we were after, and it's also materialized.
Yeah. Do you think that also that it also helps in the kind of hiring process when people want to come to work for Valtech? Is it different to them than?
Yeah, it is different,
example,
and it helps, but it's also
it
also,
can be scary as well, I think.
Yeah, and I must say, there's also quite a number of people who have said, like, okay, eFocus has already grown pretty big.
Yeah, sure.
And then becoming part of Valtech, they were like, okay, this doesn't feel like the place for me anymore.
Yeah.
And we want to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it happens, and fair enough when we shake hands. But then on the other end, it also attracts quite a number of people who like to travel internationally, who are in a phase in their life where they want to engage with other cultures.
Yeah.
So it definitely, and that's also what we've seen, both the amount, but also the type of people that we get on our doorstep wanting to work with us has changed.
Yeah, and I think, of course, the one of the things is that the bigger you get, the bigger clients as well, and the bigger challenges.
Yeah, it's like elephants with elephants.
Yeah,
and, and we've actually seen that happening because it's not that the size of the clients has changed, because we were already for Heineken, we were already working for the top, but the size of the engagements that we do with our clients, they have changed and grown dramatically.
Yeah, it's just bigger projects. Maybe
bigger
also
projects, more international, more countries involved, bigger change programs. So customers were, before it was like smaller websites, now we're doing actually supply chain, big things where it's also the customer are putting big bets, and it's a lot of business that runs through, a lot of their business which runs through those platforms.
And when we look at the kind of organization that you have, because you're in multiple countries, we talked about it a little bit before, it was like 15, 16 countries, as far 50, as you could you could get from top of the mind. But
it depends on when and how you ask the question.
So,
but we're sizable and we're worldwide.
Pretty big.
Pretty big.
So I was wondering about that, because what usually happens when you get at this kind of scale, it's harder to kind of keep that communication and kind of keep that company culture going. So how do you kind of try to provide that in your kind of organization?
There's actually two things. One is the countries are pretty strong.
Yeah.
So each of the countries, like we have been sort of left alone and basically were able to do our own thing in the Netherlands after we were acquired. Most of the countries operate that way. So there's a strong sense of like ownership on a country level. There's also appreciation. We're doing something on our own. We have, you have quite a number of freedom to do the stuff you want. But then on the other end, as clients grow, as our engagement grows, because Valtech is also growing.
Sure.
So there is another layer added on top of that, where the international collaboration is getting stronger and stronger. So that's also why we see the global teams that are actually working both on clients but also on the company level are increasing at this point in time.
Yeah, so you kind of try to keep the teams. What for example, when I talked to Paul from Depth, his vision was also a little bit on keeping that it sometimes helps to have teams that are built up from people from different countries, right? To keep that kind of communication flowing between those countries. Is that something that you do as well?
Yeah, we do that as well.
Yeah.
So whenever there's a client engagement which grows across country borders, even the initial team is already formulated with a number of people from different countries. So they have their home base still in the country, but then they also know I'm going to be assigned on a project for like a year, which is in Paris. So I'm still like in the Amersfoort office.
Yeah,
that's my home.
Yeah.
But then I know that I'll be assigned for this longer term project. But for our employees, it's also nice because we had actually some employees. We've been Volkswagen on NL, which is the Volkswagen where you choose your car in the Netherlands. We've been building that 3 times now. So we've had 3 iterations and doing that with the same people. So the 4th time, it's also for our employees. They think like, okay, this is more of the same.
Yeah, sure. I want something else.
I want something else. And then and that's also one thing we could provide with Valtech. Then you get like this assignment for instance, L'Oreal, which is a big customer for us. we do all the brands for L'Oreal in all countries, and you get asked to do that project.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a lot bigger, which is a lot more challenging, which does require across the globe development with multiple teams. So how are you going to set up an architecture for that? So that's also a nice thing, which our employees, so a nice growing challenge for them as well.
What was the kind of joining Valtech? Was that also something that had to do with knowledge as well? So what I mean by that is that, for example, other companies join bigger companies because they have some kind of knowledge in a particular field that you didn't maybe have before being acquired. Is that also one of the key things? I can imagine it's one of the key things that you think about as well.
We also realized, apart from sort of the international factor, which was definitely the main reason to be acquired, but also we knew that like 200 people, digital is getting bigger.
Yeah,
especially if you're doing not only technical but also doing the marketing, creative, mobile,
data
science, mobile, VR, AR, blockchain. I mean, there's all sorts of things, and you know that with 200 or 300 or even 600 people, you're not going to cover all these aspects in full depth. And that's also why we, as part of Valtech, like one country is focusing on VR, another country is focused on data science. We have a lot of content campaigns in the Netherlands, so we're actively doing marketing. So by being part of a larger network, you can actually tap into those resources for your clients as well.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to. When I look at it from a development perspective, already you have like 3 or 4 or 5 people, different kind of functions that need to be included just in the team to get something working.
And then all the development with like front-end technologies, Vue, exactly. All those technologies, and also on the cloud. I mean, you have like AWS, you have Azure. Yeah. You need to provision in both because customers are asking for it. And having all that in one country or in one team,
it's almost not viable to do it. Yeah,
and that's also what we see now, and it's also the road that we have as Valtech, that we're going to organize those specialities in specific countries.
Yeah,
because a lot of our clients don't care where the actual work is done.
No.
As long as it's done, and it's done in a proper way by a good team, and as long as they can interact locally with people about what we're actually building in their own language. So that's also the objective what we want to offer is having this sort of mix of global delivery, but also being local and talking to the clients directly.
Yeah, because the technologies come that far that you can do it, right? You can be in a different country. It doesn't really matter where the work happens. Actually, we do that as well. So we have a development team in Serbia. So I go there every like half of a year or something like that, and every 6 months. Yeah, and then we discuss what we need to do. But the day-to-day, so the daily stand-ups, it's all done through video conferencing.
And that was this type of was an additional benefit of joining Valtech. We've already, as eFocus, also been looking at opening something in some Eastern European country, both because of cost reason, but also because of we just simply can't find the people in the Netherlands, the talent anymore. So we were looking at it, but it's also, if you start thinking about it, you already get headaches, and you're going to be...
Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard, and Valtech had already taken that route, so they had an operation in Ukraine already established, so we could quickly tap into that as well and add that to our sort of delivery capabilities, and we're now pretty well equipped with like 20 people in Ukraine and working for our clients as well, and that's going to increase as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what a lot of people forget, is that there are a lot of talented people there which are looking for a job actually.
And it's and for instance, Sitecore is a software package, is a content management system which we use a lot, and they basically have a development center across the street from us. In Ukraine.
Crazy, yeah.
So we exchange people, and when they sort of have their release ready, they let go of some people, and these people ring on our doorstep. And no Sitecore inside out, because they've actually been building the package themselves.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool, because if you have a particular project and you need to have some kind of expert come in, it's just across the street, right?
And then again, these are just colleagues of us. I mean, they come to the Netherlands, we go there.
Sure.
We also have somebody in Ukraine now working there. So that's also how we sort of try to keep, basically one team, 2 locations.
Yeah, you have to have that view as well to keep that kind of team dynamic. To not have like it's us versus them.
No, it's not like we put everything in an envelope and then ask them open the envelope and build it. No, it's actually us working with them together and seeing also, and that's also also why we have local developers. So those developers are actually working with them and sort of trying to figure out what's best, what can we do best, what can you do best, how can we separate those things, should we work together.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's exactly how we do it as well.
Okay.
It's in a much smaller scale, but
but it's a model which we really
it
like.
Works.
Yeah,
it works. Yeah, it works, and a lot of people are kind of skeptical about it because of the whole remote thing, and they still want to have people here because of some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it does happen that I mean, it's getting there. It's getting more and more like, okay, it doesn't really matter where you are.
Yeah. And they get also more professional on their side.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's their English is good. They can pretty much do anything you want to do as well. And that's just, I mean, I think that a lot of companies will go that way because, as you said, the talent pool in the Netherlands, for example, is it's kind of drying up, right?
At least, and there's a sort of a pond and everybody's fishing in it.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It gets more difficult. Not impossible, but and then again, there's so much work to be done in this space, so we need the people, and there's more talent available there.
Sure, yeah. And I want to deep dive into something else. So I'm always curious about where something like someone that is in the space you are in right now looks at the internet. So how they look at how that's grown.
The internet,
and
that's a big...
it's a big thing, but I just want to... I asked this question to Heini as well, and I want to ask it to you as well, is that I asked him the question, are there going to be any websites anymore in the future?
Yeah, okay.
That's a smaller question in that sense, but I think it's interesting because that's also kind of looking at the future and seeing how we will interact with what we are doing right now. So what's your kind of view on that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that are happening. There's sort of a proliferation of touch points happening.
Yeah, sure.
So we have web, we have mobile, we know those. Everybody has a mobile. But then again, a lot of devices, including, for instance, a car, that is actually a touch point to the internet becoming, because most of the cars are connected right now, or most of the new cars are already connected. So there's a lot of services happening in the car. There's touch points in store. There's all sorts of things. And what we also see, and we're together with Audi, I already gave that example.
Yeah, let's go to that one.
To that one. And what we also see is that the product itself, we look at the sort of second wave of digital transformation. The first wave was about sort of providing the same products, but then through a digital way. What we now see is the second wave where actually the products themselves become digital. So, for example, I have a bike, and on the bike there's a feature that I can enable or disable by paying a subscription fee.
Okay.
So that bike has like a feature.
For what?
For power meter.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah,
so it is on the bike, but you can enable it or disable it by providing. So you're not buying you're buying a physical product, but the actual, and that's also what you see with Tesla. So some of the options are enabled or disabled, and you see that kind of like proliferation of digital in products. You see that a lot of companies, and for instance, like L'Oreal, they actually bought a company which has like an AR mirror. So that you can actually see, and they can project if you apply some of their beauty products.
How it will look like
on your face in reality.
Without putting it on.
Without putting it on. So we see a lot of those kind of things. And I mean, L'Oreal buying a technology company 5 years ago, that would have been...
Yeah, it's weird.
That would have been weird, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like sort of...
It's totally logical now when you look at it.
Yeah, given the sort of... And all this is experimental, like AR, VR... those kind of, but we see kind of like a lot of brands experimenting with it, trying it out, and seeing how they can deploy basically new business models based on that. So will the web be there? Yeah, and websites, and will you see at the browser? Yeah, I think you will in the future. But will it be a part of it? Yeah, it will be part of it as well. But it will not have a dominant factor anymore like it had. Like
so the interfaces are changing. That's what
the interfaces are changing.
Yeah.
And there's more interfaces. It's basically also like how you sort of consume news. I mean, the newspaper's still there. I get a newspaper every morning. I'm also a little bit older, so I still have a newspaper. But it's the same. Yeah, it's the same with horse riding. I mean, there's also a lot of horse riding going on.
Yeah.
Whereas like 100 years ago, horse riding was sort of the dominant way of
transportation.
Transportation. And
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way, because that makes sense. I mean, there are interfaces all around us, right?
Yeah.
And one of the interfaces that a lot of people are talking about, I think it almost comes by every podcast that I do, but the kind of voice interfaces that people are using right now, it's not, can you call it an interface? But never mind. It's just the thing that you can do with your voice. That's I think that's also becoming a big part, right?
And that's going to become a commodity as well, in the sense that most of the interfaces will have. We also see, like at home, the HomePod or all those devices, the Amazon Echoes, those kind of devices, which are not so proliferant in the Netherlands, but in the US, I think every second household has one of these devices.
The adaptation is low here still because of the language. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Which is unfortunate, I think.
Which is unfortunate. Which is also why you see that English is becoming even more dominant.
Which is a shame, of course. But on the other hand, I get why it's happening, right? I mean,
but you could also expect that as voice becomes even more commodity, then it also becomes more attractive to support other languages, including Dutch and.
They do English, Spanish, and stuff like that, like the bigger languages first, of course.
I mean, and then German and then French, and
it makes sense. It makes sense to do that, but I wanted to talk about that because that Audi thing was kind of interesting to me. So, what do you exactly do for them? Because it sounds like something that's not happening that much, right? The connected car or whatever. So could you tell?
Okay. I don't know if have you ever driven in a Tesla?
Yeah, of course. The Tesla is the best example.
But Tesla, I mean, is basically an iPad on wheels. That's how I call it. I mean, it's basically a big computer. Yeah. It's connected with the internet. It's 100% connected, always on. Yeah. And obviously, when you're driving, you're not allowed to view a movie, so you need to keep your hands on the steering wheel and your eyes.
Even though they have autopilot.
But you need to keep your hands on the wheel and the eyes on the road.
Sure.
But having this sort of internet connection and also, interestingly enough, there's also been research that like 10 years ago, people were buying a car because of the engine and how well it drove. That's not a factor anymore. It is still a factor, but it's not a dominant factor. That's actually the connectivity of the car.
Yeah, exactly.
So how well does the entertainment system work? Can you operate the car with your mobile phone? Are all those kind of services, and that also that connectivity opts for a lot of new like services, which we still are sort of at the starting stage of finding out what's actually useful.
Yeah.
And that's opening the booth by the TNT postman who's delivering package so that they can remotely open your truck and only they can open it. So you give them the access, please open my truck, so put the package in.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that's the one sort of pretty down-to-earth example of the services. But you can also imagine like you're driving and you go into another country, you're not insured, you don't have any travel insurance, so you get like a pop-up on your screen, you want to have travel insurance for this country, which is like tailor very narrowly, specifically for you, a message including an offer like click here and for €1 a day you're insured. In this country. Do you want this? Yes or no? So those kind of services is what we sort of envision.
Because that's different than what it is, of course, right now. I mean, there was a whole vibe going on for like doing in retail with the beacons and stuff like that, getting ads to your phone based on that technology. But people are kind of moving away from that and looking at other kind of past where they can go through to get to you to buy these kind of products, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and for instance, the retail space is also an interesting what Amazon is doing with their cashless checkout.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's pretty, but that's basically the operating system of retail of tomorrow. They have a lot of patents in that area, and if they're able in the end with cameras and RFID tags and products to figure out what you've put in your shopping basket and walk out the store, and you get to check on your phone and you don't have to go to any cash register. And they're pretty well, I mean, I would say like 80-90% on the way to achieve that.
Yeah.
And it's going to make it easier for the customers. Because you don't have to wait in line, you don't have to put all your products on a belt, and so if that materializes, I think it will touch everybody.
Yeah, I was when you said that, I thought about the last podcast that I did was with Tim. He's from ST&T Research. And what they do is actually, they had a kind of experiment going on with augmented reality where they could create a store. And they can see, based on your kind of brain waves and stuff like that, they can actually see what kind of layout works within a store. Yeah. So you don't have to build the store and see if it works.
Yeah, and actually measure.
Yeah, and actually measure, but you could already do that in kind of augmented reality. Yeah. And I think that's going to be the augmented reality part still feels like a gimmick sometimes because everybody's like...
and sometimes it is, and a lot of the examples I agree with you, but I think there's real value. Yeah. And also augmented reality, there's a lot of things happening already more not visible for the end consumers, like in maintenance, like aeroplanes or car device maintenance, where people have like glasses on where they can actually see the engine and actually project it
the manual and stuff like that.
The manual and please look up here and please you need to check this one, so they can actually visually see in their own what they actually need to do.
Yeah, and I've seen some demos of kind of in the medical space as well. Yeah. So people showing, we're going to operate on this person. You can already see some stuff that you wanted to see, and that's mind blowing. I mean,
for us that's mind blowing, but those things already exist and they're being pretty rapidly developed. That's highly specialized, but it happens.
Yeah, and what I would like to go to as well is that what do you kind of see for the future for your company as well in this whole space? So what do you feel that's going to be?
Yeah, we're pretty optimistic because there's a lot of things happening.
You're growing, so it's going good.
And we're growing, so and we also see like these kind of things. And from a technical standpoint, which is also a bit of like the focus of this podcast, we also see kind of like a shift to more because we have so much touch point, we also need to enable the platforms where everything comes together, because in the end all transactions need to be on one platform. We see that's kind of like, and there's been a lot of talk already on microservices, that's been in the market for like 15-20 years already, but we really now see that take off, and that's a necessity as well, because you need to have one platform and you need to enable that on multiple touch points, some of those you don't even know what they're going to be. So you need to provide those interfaces and to be a little bit more loosely coupled and provide that. So that's what we see with a lot of our clients as well, that they are investing now in having these kind of transforming their current existing platforms to become more sort of loosely coupled with their actual touch points on the front end, whether it be a mobile, whether it be a car, whether it be the website, whether it be something else. So that's what we see also in demand, in influx in work right now. Yeah,
and I think that maybe that's also what we talked about a little bit before, of course, is that it will be less focused on just the websites that you look at, but also the kind of interfaces that someone uses outside of that.
Yeah, the website is just one manifestation of interfacing, and that has like a particular properties.
Sure, yeah, and which work,
which work, and which are pretty rich.
Yeah,
but then on the mobile, it's less rich because you have less interface, and on the car, it will be even more targeted.
Yep.
I mean, you're driving right here and right now, and this is what you need. So don't make any options, and you're not going to in your car make all the options and do all the filtering and
that's not going to work.
Browse to a lot of products. That's not going to work. It needs to be tailor focused, and this is the thing you want, might likely, and these are the options. And
but it's like when you can have a web browser in the Tesla as well, right? And you're like, okay, why do I need this in my car?
Because then you walk upstairs and you go to your laptop and you do it. Rather there than on it doesn't make any sense.
That also shows that some interfaces just don't work in specific situations. It's just like that. I mean,
and we've all seen them and we've all worked with them where you think like this doesn't make any. This doesn't
make sense. Yeah.
So and the second,
go ahead.
The second thing which also underpins this sort of relevance and providing relevant services is data. So we see a lot of our clients also investing in data lakes, where they bring, previously was called data warehouse, where they bring all their knowledge together to basically
on one point,
to sort of deduct what's the best thing which we can do right now, given the situation, given the client that we're talking to, and what's
and try to provide context, which that's kind of the hardest part of that.
Provide the right context, make actually the right decision. Okay, this is relevant for this person right now. This is what we should be doing.
It's kind of what the people are talking about. It's funny. I have this discussion. I had it one or a few podcasts ago about if AI, for example, even exists. Because in most cases, when people are talking about AI and what it does, is it's actually machine learning, right? It's just a huge data lake, and just pick and choose some kind of answer based on what you're asking, right?
It is trying to be relevant and based on your ability to provide make sort of a feedback loop.
Exactly.
Learn on that. I actually heard an example. There was like a pizza. I don't know which one it was. It was like a 0-click ordering. You just open the app
and you've ordered it.
And you have like
why?
That's kind of like funny. Yeah? You have 5 seconds to cancel the order.
Why would they do? Yeah, okay. I get why they want to do it.
But it's sort of based on your previous history. They know what you're most likely. They sort of pretend to know what you want to order.
And also maybe you've done it at specific times or whatever.
Exactly. That's the whole thing about it. I don't know how far this has gone and how successful it is.
Yeah. That's crazy. If it works, it's crazy. I mean,
that sounds to be a little bit over the top, but that's
it does. But maybe it is what we're going to, right? I mean, if I'm like, okay, maybe I would like some pizza tonight, it will already know. Okay, you probably want pizza. That's pretty scary on the other hand, but.
But we all have sort of want to have the ability to choose, but then also we all have sort of difficulties in choosing. And the more options there are, the more difficult it gets to choose. And so having algorithms, having systems which make sort of out of all these options, the 5 most likely that you are going to want to accept.
Yeah, exactly.
It will definitely, those companies who do that best.
Yeah, they're going to survive, of course. I mean, what I want to do is, for wrapping up, it's always the last question.
Okay.
And it's always the hardest question. People find it the hardest question for some reason. But what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? I think it's actually the 300 people I work in together with.
Yeah.
Having this team, having this great ability, having all these professionals working as one team, and obviously not everything goes every time right, but being able to provide this to our clients, which is recognized, and that's why we're growing. So that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, so it's the whole combined effort that you do
the
for
combined
your
effort and what we also as a company provide, which I'm really proud of. I mean, we provide also for our employees an ability to realize their ambition, dreams, or whatever, how big it is.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, but being able to provide that platform both for our clients, but particularly also for our employees, and having this interface, because when we're providing something for our clients, we can also provide something for our employees, and that's sort of the wheel which we make, which we want to make, and which we have been able to make successfully turning.
Very cool. I would like to stop it on that. I think that's a good way to end it. Where can people find Valtech? So on the website or
on the website is valtech.nl in the Netherlands, and we also have valtech.com. Actually, the two are looped together. And in the Netherlands, we're based in Utrecht, Amsterdam, Amersfoort, and Eindhoven. So we have 4 offices, and all 4 offices are substantial. So,
very cool. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Amar.
Yeah, and for the listeners, you can find the Bits vs. Bytes podcast on bitsvsbytes.com, also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all over the place.
It's hard to miss.
It's hard to miss. And of course, on social media, it's all Bits vs. Bytes on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I would like to thank you for listening, and until next time.